Hello and welcome to Retro Gaming Swede. My name is Oskar and today I'll show you my latest gaming pickups. But before we start, finally hit 100 subs. And of course, thank you Getanu, or whatever your name is, for giving me that last push and giving me a shout out. That was really nice of you. But I don't want to be talking a whole lot about other things than games. And yes, this episode contains everything. Hardware, a semi-weird rental thing, and of course a lot of games. So let's get on with it. First off, we have some hardware. Found this for cheap at a flea market or second-hand store or something like that. I finally have 4 controllers for the Nintendo 64 now, and it works really well for the. And as I said, I didn't pay that much for it, so. And with it I got the classic Super Mario 64, which I bet most people owned if they had a Nintendo 64. Absolute classic, super fun game. The next game up, also for the Nintendo 64, is Top Gear Rally. This is a pretty solid rally game. The controls are a little bit off though. I don't know if I'm just not used to it or if I'm stupid, but I think it can be pretty fun in multiplayer. Anyway, next up is 007. The World Is Not Enough. Not a bad game per se, but it still has to live with not being GoldenEye. So yeah, as I said, not a bad game, but not GoldenEye, not an absolute classic either. Next up, we have a fun little fighting game called Fighter's Destiny. This is a pretty solid fighting game actually, with a pretty special mechanic. Instead of just knocking your opponent to the ground, it uses a point system. So if you get a ring out, it's 1 point. If you throw them down, it's 3 points, I think. And if you knock them out, it's 2 or 3 points. And the first 1 to 7 wins. So some of the matchups can take a whole lot of time, and some can be over in seconds. So yeah, it's a really fun mechanic and I really enjoyed the game. Next up, we have a chipped or modified PlayStation. I've been looking for a modified one for a while, because I have some American games that I want to play, and I don't want to use the toothpick trick to play them. Anyway, together with that, I got Gran Turismo 2. Not really a collector's item per se, but it's a fun game. I really like it, and of course it was absolutely amazing when it released, and I think it's still fun today. Next up, we move on to the Dreamcast with a game called Aero Wings. This is sort of a flight simulator game. Not amazing, but when I bought it, I saw Crave Entertainment. I thought, hey, that could be fun. But flight simulators aren't really my thing. I always struggle with the controls for some reason. Then we have Sega GT. This is another really fun racing game. Looks amazing. Plays great. I really enjoy this. It's got a ton of cars and yeah, really fun. Also a game I think can be really fun in multiplayer. I absolutely look forward to playing this on against people. Next up we have this. What's that, you might ask? Well, it's the rental version of Mario Paint with the mouse pad and of course the mouse. I've been looking for the mouse for a good while actually, and I found this super cheap, so extra fun to get this thing with it. There's some weird sticker in here too, with some cleaning tips and stuff like that, and how to plug it in. Anyway, I know you can make some pretty nice stuff with Mario Paint, although I'm not that kind of guy. My art skills are not that great. Next up we have maybe my favorite games on the Mega Drive. Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. Or Sonic 3 and Knuckles if you want to. Of course you can always put them together to make one huge game. I absolutely love Sonic 3 and Knuckles and the other games too, of course, but especially when you put them together. Absolutely amazing. Next we move on to the Master System. First up we have a game called Dragon Crystal. This is a pretty nice little dungeon crawler thing. I really enjoy it, and I think I'm gonna have some pretty fun times with it. I really like those kinds of old school dungeon crawler games. Next up we have a game called Aerial Assault. This is a pretty fun shoot 'em up for the Master System. It's not very spectacular, but it does have some fun power-ups and stuff, and a lot of weapons to use, so highly recommend you trying it out. The next game I don't have any recorded footage of, because it's too much of a hassle to bring out a CRT and hook it up together with the computer and stuff. But it's called Marksman Shooting, Trap Shooting, Safari Hunt. It's a game you get with the gun. I already have the gun and the game, but I got this in a pack, so couldn't help. The games are pretty fun. So next up we have an absolute classic, Rampage. Destroy stuff, eat people and stuff. You can eat toilets in this game. I don't know why. Anyway, absolutely classic, superb arcade conversion. Really fun game. Next up we have Super Monaco GP. Yes, I know I already own this, but now I have the manual too. And it was dirt cheap, so why not complete the set, you know? It's nothing spectacular. It's a run-of-the-mill old racing game. Next up we have Vigilante. This is beat 'em up sort of. Only that, unlike in what's it called, Double Dragon, games like that, you can't walk over the screen. You can only walk in a straight line, and your attack rate is stunningly low, short, and well, it looks great, but it's not that hilariously fun. It's super duper hard. Next up we have Super Tennis on the Sega card. I know the game isn't that much. The game isn't amazing or anything, but I always pick up these when I get the chance. There's not many of those around, so it's always fun to get the card version of a game. Next up we have RC Grand Prix. This is a pretty fun racing game with RC cars. Sort of like RC Pro-Am for the NES. Really solid multiplayer game. Really hard single player game. But still pretty fun. Next up we have G-Lock Air Battle. This is also a sort of flying sim style game. You control your aircraft through the cockpit, and the controls are weird, but it looks great. Sounds pretty great too. But as always, I have a really hard time with the controls. Next up we have a game called Ghost House. This is a pretty fun action platformer. You're sort of exploring a huge mansion, trying to find Dracula and kill vampires, ghosts, and well, other typical horror vampire themed stuff. Pretty fun actually. Next up we have Alex Kidd in High Tech World, and I absolutely hate this game. It starts out in your house, and you're supposed to go around the house, fetch a bunch of stuff, then you fall downstairs and die. That's basically my experience with this game. I know it's supposed to become fun on the way to the arcade that you're supposed to get to, but I've never made it that far. And the second to last game is Alex Kidd The Lost Stars. This is a lot better than the High Tech World, but it still has its flaws. Like, the enemies are super hard to avoid, and your health bar is also the level timer, so you will time out again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Otherwise, plays pretty great. Last up is one of my absolute favorite games for the Sega Master System, Asterix. Yay! This is a really solid platformer, of course based on the Asterix comics. Looks great, plays great, and yeah, it's an absolute solid platforming game. If you've never checked out Asterix for the Master System, go do that now. Now of course there's 2 sequels to it. that are also amazing. But the first game is something I really, really love. It's really, really solid game. So, that was all my pickups for the last 1.5 months or so. What do you think? Are there any games you absolutely love? Are there any games you absolutely hate? Tell me in the comment section. And of course, once again, thank you Getanu, or whatever your name is, for giving me a shout out. And thanks everyone for subscribing. And of course, if you don't subscribe, you should do it if you like this. If you don't like this, well, don't subscribe then. But anyway, all I have left now is a very grateful goodbye.